I'm Katherine. My husband, John, and I worked in different departments at the same company, but we were colleagues. A good friend of mine, who was John's mentor, often invited us out for drinks. John was very friendly, kind of a cute subordinate, I guess. But he would walk on the street side to protect me, and he always made reservations when we went out to eat. Sometimes his manly side would show, and it made my heart flutter. One day, John asked me out for a meal, just the two of us, and after dinner, he confessed his feelings. I was surprised, but I agreed to date him. Our relationship went smoothly, and on our third anniversary, he proposed at a fancy restaurant with a big bouquet of roses, and we got married. Living together after marriage, some frustrations that weren't there before started to surface. Things like leaving socks around, or not taking out his lunchbox unless I mentioned it. The biggest issue was that he didn't do any housework, even though we both worked. John had lived at his parents' home until we got married and had never done any housework. So, he didn't seem to care at all, watching videos leisurely while I did all the chores next to him. Eventually, I reached my limit and pointed it out to him.
Sorry.
He apologized with a downcast look and started doing simple chores like washing dishes. But after a while, he would forget and stop doing housework again. It was tiresome to remind him every time, and even when he did help, it wasn't done well, so I often had to redo it. It's hard to complain when someone is helping. Maybe that was for the best. Then, after some time, I got pregnant, and it was twins. I was anxious but more excited. John was very happy and took good care of me. He didn't do much housework, but he would carry heavy things and buy lots of jelly from the supermarket if I felt even slightly unwell. I gave birth by C-section, and he seemed relieved when he saw me and the babies.
Thank goodness.
He had tears in his eyes, so I thought he was happy. I never imagined what he would say the next day. The day after I gave birth, something happened. The night I gave birth, I was in pain and had a fever. I hardly slept and greeted the morning almost sleepless. The fever didn't subside by morning, and I could barely move. Then the phone rang. It was John. Thinking something must have happened, I answered the phone.
Hello, Katherine. What time are you coming home?
Excuse me?
So, what time are you coming home today? I'm pretty hungry.
What do you mean?
Didn't you see my text? I've got a fever, so I'm feeling pretty rough. Can you come home soon?
I told you I'd be in the hospital for about 9 days after the C-section, right? I've given you money for food. So can't you buy something from the convenience store or supermarket? I was bewildered by John's unreasonable demands.
Wait, aren't you worried I might collapse on the street because I have a fever?
How about takeout?
Takeout is expensive. It's only a 5-minute drive from the hospital to our house. It'd be faster if you come home and cook.
That might be faster, but that's not the point.
Come on. The hospital can sort something out. When you have a cold, you want to eat something nutritious, right? But there's nothing in the fridge. So pick up some groceries on your way.
I wondered if I was hearing things because of the fever. His demands were so out of this world. When I remained silent, he must have thought I agreed.
Okay, I'll be waiting then.
He was about to hang up. Wait, hold on.
What do I want to eat? Let me think.
No, that's not it.
Excuse me?
I just had a C-section. I'm in pain. I have a fever. There's no way they'd let me leave. It's impossible.
What? What are you talking about? You're just faking it, aren't you? The baby's already born. You can handle a little strain, right? I helped you a lot during your pregnancy, didn't I? Now it's your turn to help me, right? Besides, Katherine, you're on maternity leave, so you're basically a housewife. Housewives don't take breaks from housework.
I was appalled by John's selfish excuses. It seemed like a timely moment, as the doctor and nurse came in. It's impossible to do what's impossible. Saying that, I forcefully ended the call. I must have looked terrible. The nurse looked shocked when she saw my face and asked, Are you okay? Until now, even though he had been somewhat needy, he had never made such unreasonable demands. Actually, since then, the phone hadn't stopped ringing, and I wanted to clear my head. So I left it as it was, and then the emails started coming. The content was mostly what he had said on the phone. He wouldn't barge into the hospital, but it seems he did call.
My wife hasn't been in touch. When is she likely to be discharged?
The nurse told me. He's worried. I thought of having a divorce later, but I stopped at asking my mom if I could come home. Even after a few days, the emails didn't stop. I'd become numb to it, and I asked the doctor, "Can I be discharged a bit earlier?" The doctor thought for a moment.
Your recovery is going well, so we can make it one day earlier. Do you have someone you can rely on?
I'm planning to go home for now tomorrow, but after that, I'll go to my parents' house.
That's reassuring. Just make sure you don't overdo it.
He cautioned me like he was driving a nail. Understood. I'll be discharged tomorrow. Let's talk when I get home. I sent just that. John was so different from before. I thought, we need to talk face to face. That's when my mom came to visit me, along with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law and my mom get along well, and they go out for lunch together. That day was one of those lunch days, and they stopped by on their way back. Mom, I'm sorry for suddenly deciding to come home. Also, I got discharged a day early, so I'll be leaving the hospital tomorrow. I'll go home first, then head over to your place. Is that okay? After greeting them both, I told my mom.
That's fine, but did something happen to make it a day shorter?
Yeah. Well, a lot of things.
Katherine, are you coming home?
Yes, I'm sorry for suddenly bringing this up.
That's totally fine. But what happened?
I hadn't planned on telling my mother-in-law and mom the reason. I thought I shouldn't involve parents in marital issues, but I couldn't keep silent to the two of them who were genuinely worried. And I told them about what happened after the birth. After hearing everything, my mom was furious.
What is John thinking? Going home? Don't say that. You can stay as long as you like.
But maybe John had his reasons. No reason could justify this. I'm sorry. Can I join the discussion tomorrow? My mother-in-law was quietly furious, her face red. She has had 3 children, and it seems the youngest, John, was born by C-section because he had a large head. Her anger was also because she knew the pain of a C-section. After I told John, I'll be discharged tomorrow, the constant messages suddenly stopped. The next day was Saturday, and John should be off work, but there was no sign of him coming to pick me up. As planned with my mother-in-law and mom, I would leave the hospital on that day, and not just with them. My eldest sister-in-law, her daughter, my middle sister-in-law, and her husband would all visit our home. I'm home.
Katherine, you're late. What's with mom and all of you?
He seemed confused, thinking it would just be me. What's going on? Are you serious?
What are you talking about? If you were coming, you should have told me. Even if you're family, it's troubling if you just show up unexpectedly.
Put your hand on your heart and think carefully.
As they talked, John stood up to stop his sisters-in-law and mother-in-law from marching into the house. But it was futile. Cindy reached the living room first.
Here we are.
Peeking into the living room from behind John, his sister thought, how could it get this dirty in just a week?
I've been busy with work and stuff. What do you even want?
What did you say to Katherine?
To Katherine. Did something happen? Did I say something?
John turned to me. He did so seemingly without any malice, completely unconcerned.
You told Katherine, who just had a C-section, to come back home?
That? Well, I had a fever too. You know, I helped her during her pregnancy, so she could help me out after giving birth, right? Yet Katherine uses a fake illness and won't even come back from a 5-minute distance?
Are you serious? Wow, that's too much. You've always been extreme, but what's crazy is that you don't even understand what's wrong.
Huh?
How high was your fever anyway?
37.5 degrees Celsius.
John was flustered, clearly shaken, and it seemed like he might have exaggerated his fever.
That's just a normal temperature variation. Your thermometer must be broken. You've always been like this. Even when you just scraped your knee, you acted like you had a broken bone. Right, right. Mom had to come over, remember? It was such a hassle for work. It's hilarious that you haven't changed since you were a kid.
John, ridiculed by his mother-in-law and two sisters-in-law, turned bright red and shouted.
This time, I really was feeling awful. Katherine just had a baby. She can handle a little strain, right? I just asked her to come back for a bit. Doug, you're a man. You understand, right?
Thinking it was useless to respond to the sisters, or perhaps hoping for understanding from another man, John turned to Doug for support. Really? Haven't you heard that a woman's body after childbirth is like having been in a car accident?
I've heard that, but that's for normal births, right? Katherine had a C-section with anesthesia, so she wouldn't feel pain. It must have been easy.
Are you okay, John? That's way off. Childbirth is life-threatening. It's nothing compared to a man's slight fever. Even Doug, whom he thought was an ally, completely denied him, and John finally seemed to realize his perception was off. I approached John and slapped him. Did that hurt? You're talking like an alien. I thought maybe the medication was affecting you, numbing your senses. As I smiled, he finally realized I was angry and started to panic, kneeling down.
Katherine, I'm really sorry.
No need to apologize anymore.
Katherine, thank you. I'll change my ways and do better from now on.
No, don't bother. I want a divorce. I handed him the already filled out divorce papers. Then, realizing the situation, John turned pale.
No, I don't want a divorce. I'll try harder from now on.
No way. That's impossible, right? We both work, and you don't even do the housework. We might as well be divorced already.
Divorce is the only option. John, sobbing uncontrollably after being harshly criticized, said,
I'll do anything. I'll take over all the household chores from now on. Just not divorce.
He began to sob and even knelt down. I can't trust you.
I'll work hard until you can trust me again. I want to keep laughing with you and the kids in the future, Katherine. I know I did something terrible. Can you give me just one more chance? Just one more.
Seeing his serious eyes, unlike ever before, I knew I was being soft, but I decided to try and rebuild our relationship. Everyone there was in favor of divorce, and I was prepared for it too. But honestly, I was also anxious about raising twins on my own, and I guess I still had some feelings for him. I had him write the divorce papers on the spot, and my mother-in-law and sisters-in-law promised to thoroughly drill him on household chores. I decided to go back to my parents' home and live separately from John while we tried to rebuild. After deciding to rebuild, John really did make an effort. He not only cleaned the room but also did the dishes and even learned to cook simple meals. And unlike before, his chores were done properly. Still, it seems he got complaints from his mother and sisters. Compared to when he did no housework at all, his skills had improved unimaginably. Moreover, on weekends, he would come to my parents' house saying, I want help take care of the kids, and he was cooperative with childcare. 3 months into our separation, as the kids' night crying decreased, I was thinking, maybe I can go back home, when an incident occurred. Claiming it was a surprise check, my mother-in-law used her key to enter our house, and when she tried to check, she sensed someone inside. It came from the bedroom, and thinking it was a burglar, she gripped her phone tightly and quietly opened the door, only to find John and a woman in the midst of an affair. My mother-in-law accidentally took a photo, and it captured everything clearly. The woman was his ex-girlfriend, Emily. They had bumped into each other in town, and while chatting, he had slipped and complained about his current situation.
I'm free today. Shall I help?
With that, he carelessly invited her over, and one thing led to another. They ended up having an affair.
I was at my limit. I've been working, doing household chores, and taking care of the kids on weekends. I deserve some rest too. Then, rest all you want for the rest of your life.
Disgusted with John, who gave up after just 3 months, I took a lump sum for alimony from our savings. We agreed on a payment plan for child support and quickly got divorced. If you ask if I wasn't shocked, it would be a lie, but I realized something. Life is easier without John because I don't have to deal with his chores. So now, I feel refreshed. After the divorce, John apparently went back to live with his parents. I heard he gets nagged every day by his mother and sisters.
And even his beloved niece, whom he adored since she was little, told him, "Stay out of my sight."
He's being treated colder than ice and is apparently hurt by it. However, his salary is sucked up by child support, and he can't move out of his parents' house, so he's just enduring it. Thanks to my mother-in-law and sisters keeping a close eye, the child support payments have been made on time without fail. I also filed for damages against Emily. Apparently, Emily was about to get married soon. She had quit her job and even moved. I sent a certified letter to her new address, and once the affair was exposed, her marriage was called off. For Emily, it was supposed to be her last fling before marriage.
"It's your fault my life is ruined. I'll claim damages against you."
She exploded at the law office, but Emily's parents are decent people, and they apologized profusely. They paid the damages in one lump sum from the money saved for her wedding. The look on her face as she was forced to apologize and clearly resentful is unforgettable. Since then, my sisters-in-law's family and my mother-in-law have been on good terms, and they come to visit my parents' house. My mother-in-law and my mother still get along well, visiting separately and apparently going out for lunch. Cindy and her husband are also expecting a child soon, so that's something to look forward to. As for me, I'm still being run ragged by the twins every day. I'm about to return to work soon, and honestly, I'm not sure if I have the stamina. But I have a lot of supportive people around me, including my mother and mother-in-law, which is reassuring. As for John, we work at the same company, but after the divorce, rumors spread with embellishments, and it seems they reached HR, moving him from a prime sales position to a warehouse job. It looks like I won't have to deal with him anymore, which is a relief.